He's like FTX. His kids mine him for imaginary money. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice. We're going to mandate get it on. Alex Edelman is here, comedian, actor. Just watched his stand-up special / one-man show.
It's a performer.
Yeah, it's got meat on the bone, man. It's almost an hour and a half.
Thanks, man.
It's really, I mean, you can tell, I guess you can kind of tell the difference between a stand-up show and a kind of a one-man show because your show seems so refined, I guess it would be.
But you know what's so funny is that, like, I was looking at the list of upcoming dates that you got, and they're at comedy clubs, and some of these comedy clubs are places that I worked out the show. So, like, I worked out my show in comedy clubs. I did it at the Den Theater. I did it in Wise Guys in Salt Lake City. Like, my show, I worked it all out in stand-up clubs. So, yeah, but it's definitely, I think, somewhere on the line between stand-up comedy and solo show.
Well, it's really, if you took a stand-up comedy special and just really honed it, like really made it into sort of the difference between a play, a Broadway, sort of a one-man show, and stand-up, which, might be some crowd work or might be some asides or, it's not that. It's hour and a half of just pure, well-thought-out and, like, well-structured performance. It's a great performance.
That's so nice. That's really nice of you, man. I really appreciate it. Wow.
And it's got some, great premises and some great thoughts, like, at the top with the gorilla and Robin Williams, and that's just a good, well thought out premise.
Thanks, dude.
And speaking of plays on Broadway, wasn't this on Broadway?
It was on Broadway for a little while, which is rare for stand-up comedy. There aren't a ton of stand-up shows that wind up there, but it was Mike Birbiglia was one of the producers of it.
It felt sort of Birbiglian.
Yeah, I'd say I'm Mike Bersmalia.
Yeah, I'd say
I'm like I'm a little big.
Yeah,
but it's
you're slightly taller yet smaller, Mike Birbiglia. But there's movement and I'll give you an example. You're not holding a microphone. You have the drive-through headset on, which is different than most stand-ups.
Why? Do you know the reason I did that was I had every comic who came to the show I asked for a note. So like Seinfeld came, I made him give me a note. Phil Rosenthal came, and like all these comics, comedy writers, whoever they were. And so Billy Crystal came to the show, and I could see him thinking something. And I said, "What do you got?" And he's like, "Nothing." Because he's being polite. And I was like, what? Just please tell me. He's like, no, I enjoyed the show. So 2 days later, I get a call from his friend, Alan Zweibel, who's like an older comedy writer.
Yeah.
And Zweibel, who's a legend in his own right, said, Billy has a note for you, but you might not like it. And I said, what? And he said, lose the handheld. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm a stand-up. I'm a stand-up comedian. He said, you're not going to be any less of a stand-up comedian, lose the handheld. I wasn't sure. Billy called me, and he went, here's why you should lose the handheld. He gave me like 5 they were good reasons. And then I tried it one time and I came off stage. I was like, fuck, it's better. He's right.
Right.
Sorry for cursing. But like,
that's all right.
Cuss
That's right. All you like.
But yeah, Billy was very adamant that I lose it. And he's like, it'll make it a better show. Just trust me. He's like, you're not less of a stand-up because you don't have the handheld mic. But I'm much more comfortable with the handheld mic usually. But he was right. As soon as I tried it, it was better off.
What were some of the reasons?
First of all, the show has 3 stools, which is silly, but like he's like watching you loop the microphone cord over the stools and watching you sit on the stool with the thing with the mics in your hand. He said it just embody the characters, just do it. You don't have to put on voices or act, but just when you're being someone, just be them. When you're spending that much time speaking in other people's voices, it'll be better. And he said it'll open up the show. He was like, you've been doing it this way for a couple of months. If you change it, you're going to find new things that are writing things, performance things. It's just going to be better. Because he said, I did that with 700 Sundays. Because Billy had a Broadway show.
I was going to say, he's a one-man show guy. That's probably why you got it from him.
1,000%. But I said, I sort of asked a whole bunch of people what I should do. But, sometimes I got to a theater somewhere and they didn't have the headset mic working. So I was like, I'll use the handheld. So I used the handheld. But is unmistakably, for some reason, it's better. But I think they were mostly acting things. Billy's a much better actor than than almost all comedians. And so he really
We all saw City Slickers.
We know.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean that your performance is theatrical. A lot of movement, a lot of hand movement, and maybe looks like you may be on the spectrum of something.
Oh, thanks, Adam.
Well, listen,
Really appreciate
I'm
it.
accused of being on the spectrum all the time. But
compliment
you
here.
don't have to do much. Like when people are talking to me and they're giving me information, I close my eyes. Oftentimes because I'm trying to hear them.
I understand.
Like I don't like movement over here if you're trying to express something over here because I don't want the keys jingling. So I'll close
understand.
my eyes and then people think I'm on the spectrum of something. When it's really just about
I
concentration.
get it. Look, it's not impossible. Who knows? I always I have a joke in the show where someone says, "What do you know about autism?" And I said, first of all, I've been tested 11 times.
Right.
You know, like it's part of the thing, I guess. So yeah, it's a little spectrumy. Sometimes someone told me once the number one most Googled question with my name in it was, "Does Alex Edelman have a disability?" And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, there's something. I'm very neurodivergent, to use a fancy phrase, but I've got ADD, ADHD. Every so often, someone comes to the show, and I wait outside afterwards, talk to anyone who wants to argue or ask a question or say anything. And someone came up to me a couple of months ago and went, "Just so you know, you have OCD." I was like, "No, I don't have." And they're like, "I'm a professional. I just watched you walk around the stage for 90 minutes. You have OCD." Like, "No, I don't." They're like, and then 2 weeks later, someone was like, "Can I talk to you for a second? I noticed something." I was like, "Are you going to tell me I have OCD?" They're like, "Yeah, you have OCD." So like,
That was Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
Circle back. Second round of notes.
I've been Googling you.
It was Phil Rosenthal. Phil was like, "You have OCD."
Now let's eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anytime, okay. A couple things. It's like I was watching Kara Swisher on Bill Maher the other day, basically saying that Elon Musk is a dickhead or an asshole or a douche or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, he's a genius. That's what happens. Like you traditionally, geniuses have a weird or bad bedside manner. I'm not talking about you, but I just mean when you're highly skilled and you're operating at a certain level, then there's a bunch of other stuff below it that seems idiosyncratic and weird. Like Einstein wore the same suit every. Yeah. That's because he's not like us.
Sure,
he's somewhere else.
Sure.
And I think the notion of like trying to hold people to this standard where it's like, oh, you're an amazing genius performer or you're an amazing genius inventor, but you should be more like one of my friends we drink wine with on Sundays. Like it's like, well, you're not. That's not both.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's kind of the athlete who cheats.
Sure, but they can also be assholes.
Yeah.
You can be like, it's people who, it's weirdly, I think, kind to assume that, it's weirdly kind to also say, if you're a genius and you're on some sort of spectrum, or if you're a genius and you have a high IQ and your EQ might not be high, like, not to get philosophical, but like, so you have to wonder if being a dick is nature or nurture, right? Like, are you born a dick, or some people have dickness thrust upon them, right? Like, it's a question.
I like to think I was touched by God, but
yeah. Or the devil, or the devil. Will you show me where God touched you? Because it really does.
If you give me that doll, and I'm up on the stand, I'll show you where God touched me.
But I'm just saying that. By the way, Elon Musk. I don't know if he's a dick, but I think he ruined Twitter. Or Twitter is different now than like the premise of my show is I found this rabbit hole of white nationalists on Twitter, and it was like you had to turn a couple of corners on Twitter back in 2018 to find these white nationalists, and now. And I think we suffer from Nazi inflation. Everyone's always accusing everybody else of being a Nazi or a white nationalist or whatever. But I will say that a lot of that stuff is much more out in the open on X. And I feel like, the change in leadership and the difficulties around that have, something to do with it.
But, my take on it is, a couple things. First off, really smart people and people that are really good at what they do, their metronome speeds up. And so the nicest people are the ones that are built like a big male Labrador. You know, they can hang out all day. They're chillax. You know, they're just like boom. You know, you can hang out with them, whatever. Like when I was dealing with Ivan Reitman many years ago, actually, Jimmy Kimmel and I were. He's made every movie. He's done everything. He's always in the middle of something. And he was always short and kind of a douche. You know, like we'd sit down and he'd go, "Did you guys do the changes to the script I told you to do last week?" And we'd go, "We got to some." What do you mean you got to some of them? Finish it and then come back. And then we'd go, "What a douche." And that may be true, but he was also, his metronome wasn't like my mom and her friends who could just sort of chill all day. They didn't have what was on his plate. You know, what was on his docket of things he had to do that day was a lot greater than most. And it's a sort of, they don't suffer fools, I guess is what it is. But it always seems like those guys are more direct, a little curt, a little shorter, and a little less cordial. Mm-hmm. But that goes along with them. That's sort of like being General Patton in the middle of a war. You know what I mean? They're always constantly like, go, but they don't have time. Sure. And everything's shorthand.
Sure, but you also got to give credit to people who have all that busy. So you can have grace for someone like that. But also,
there are. It's rare, but they're definitely out there. And when they are, you notice the ones that are really busy and really nice.
But you can also be like, you know, Kara Swisher can be right about Elon Musk, but there might be a good reason for Elon Musk being, you know, X,
yeah,
Y, Z.
I agree. I guess my overall synopsis is we're putting too big an emphasis on people being nice. I'd much rather focus. I'd rather tack back toward character. Like I want high character in people, and I feel like high character will fix a lot of problems.
But do you think Elon Musk is a person of high character, I guess is the question.
I think so compared to most of the people, a lot of people I know. But I haven't really put it.
Is that a high bar? Is that a high bar?
No, it's not. It's not that high. I mean, you know.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, you don't think of him as well. First things first, you pay your taxes. You don't put your hands on other people, and you don't commit crimes. You're already in a group that's higher than several million Americans. Like I'm just being on the happy side of contributing.
Sure.
You know, if you create jobs and you don't put your hands on people, you're already above the watermark, you know, for me, in terms of, I really just look at people we're all on the giant Viking ship. Some people are rowing. Some people have their feet in the water and are dragging it. And some people have locked themselves in the bathroom of the Viking ship and are doing drugs. Like, I'm slow to criticize rowers. If you're rowing, I'm usually pretty good with you.
All right.
But you did bring up something in your special that was very funny about your brother being on the skeleton luge, whatever we're calling it, bobsled.
Yeah.
The Israeli
that's right.
one.
He's an Israeli Olympian.
Right. Now, could he be on the American skeleton sled team?
You know, the funny thing is, I think when he started, he couldn't. I mean, like he could. He was born in America, but there was no intake system for training for the sport for him. I think it was like full up, or it wasn't possible for someone starting out. So I think he started training for Israel, but also he moved to Israel. He was like emigrated. He was like living in Netanya. And so now the funny thing is he's transitioned to bobsled, and he's part of a bobsled team, the Israeli bobsled team. And the thing is, the position that he has in bobsled, he would be good enough to make the American team. And they have more resources. And various friends of ours, family members, are like, AJ, any chance you maybe want to try to make things a little bit easier for yourself and transition to the American team? But he's like, no, I'm an Israeli. So he feels really strongly. Like, we disagree on a lot of stuff, but like he feels very strongly his Israeli identity. He's like, really, my brother feels Israeli.
And he's there, right?
He's back and forth. I think it's hard to train. Ironically, I think he spends most of his time in Canada because that's where the cold weather is.
Oh, right.
In terms of training. So he's in like Calgary or he's always in Calgary or Winnipeg or some crazy place.
So, all right. I got a lot of thoughts.
Sure. Sorry. It's a lot.
No, that's fine. I don't like the fact that in the bobsledding competition, there's an advantage over equipment. Like, now, I don't know if they still do it this way, but like the Germans might have an advantage because they physically built a better sled because they got Audi and Porsche and that kind of stuff.
It's mostly standardized now, but the thing you should be annoyed by is that a lot of these sports, the winners every year in the Olympics are always the host nation. Because they know the track they're racing on and get to race on it more than everybody else. So in South Korea, the South Korean slider wins. In Germany, the German slider wins. In the United States, in Salt Lake City, Jimmy Shea won, and he's a great athlete, Jimmy Shea. But like all these guys, it's really weird, and I think a little bit like it's a little off kilter that a lot of these sports that are run on ice tracks are won almost always by the host country. It's like that to me feels a little like if I was in charge of the sport, I think I'd change that somehow or try to address it. It's a little weird.
Yeah. Well, what they need, because in all athletics and all competition, they're looking for parity. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what they want. Parity for everything. So what they need to do is like, you know, in high school football and college football, they can't have one team practicing year round, so you can't do 7-on-7s starting in this month, and then you can't go to pads until that month, you know, because they want parity, you know, and they should have, if you're the host, whatever, you don't get more runs on that slide on that flume than anyone else who's coming in. Everyone gets the same amount of practice on that run.
But Adam, you know, the funny thing is, I'd actually like it more if you can build a better sled for yourself. If that was part of the competition, like NASCAR, for instance, like they've standardized the car in NASCAR so much when they moved from.
You choose with NASCAR.
Yeah,
you never
we're
stop.
obsessed.
You never stop.
That's all we do. I worry sometimes I'm the only Jewish NASCAR fan.
Well, bring it on, because I know something about it.
But like when they moved from the car of tomorrow to the next gen car, like they change the cars every 5-6 years. They base them on components from the past and stuff like that. And when I went to a couple NASCAR races. I'm writing an article about NASCAR for the Atlantic, and when I went to a few of these races, everyone's complaining that you actually can't. The cars are so similar. There's too much parity, and so like. NASCAR doesn't have a superstar, partially because of that. Because you can't. The cars are so close together, and when a caution flag comes out, you could be leading by 5 seconds, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, you're bumper to bumper back with the guys behind you. Like NASCAR doesn't have a superstar right now. There's no huge NASCAR name that you know could walk down the street in New York and be stopped 10 times. Like it just doesn't happen. So like the parity in NASCAR is what's killing the sport, actually, I think.
Well, no, I mean, it's interesting, and there's two approaches to it.
Please.
So one is you go, well, I want pure parity, so everybody in baseball uses the same baseball, so it wouldn't be fair if you got to use your own baseball or something like that. So that makes sense. On the other hand, isn't there a lot to a country building a better sled for their athlete? Doesn't that show the pride in their country, or in NASCAR, like that NASCAR team did a better job than the other NASCAR team? But then you start getting into who has more money to put into this thing, and now you have to sort of balance that out, because you go, well, if someone has an overwhelmingly more money to put into the research of their car, wind tunnel testing, or whatever it is, then that's an unfair advantage. But yeah, it is an unintended consequence in NASCAR that the field is so level that nobody emerges as the face or the superstar, the dominant force in NASCAR.
It is hilarious to me, by the way, that the thing where it's like there's one guy who wins and then there are like 36 losers. It's like really funny to go to the thing. And one guy who had no idea he was going to wake up that morning and win, because like it's crazy to think you're going to wake up and win out of it's like thinking you're going to get your number in roulette every single time. And so these guys wake up, they can't believe they won, and everyone else has to stand there next to the cars talking about what happened out there.
Right.
It's like there is something that's pretty funny about these like macho guys in beards and wraparound sunglasses standing next to their, $1 million machines, being like, well, it's hard to get clean air. And but Formula One, by the way, has the exact opposite problem, right? There are like three guys that fucking dominate, and everybody else is like a loser, and everyone kind of roots for like Verstappen to not be racing because then someone else can win. So like you said, it's parity is a
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone. It's an imperfect system. Everyone will do their best to try to create that parity, but they'll never be perfect parity.
Sure.
But as far as the sleds go, because I never even got to my thought.
I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. Not your fault. We're moving. We're all over. We're very fluid. So what I'm saying is there's a sled. There's a single man one, right?
That's there's single man bobsled. AJ's part of a 4-man bobsled team.
There's all right. Well, this could be tough depending on what position he's in, but. There's the one where you go head first alone.
That's skeleton. That's what AJ
skeleton.
Did.
And then there's the one where you go feet first alone, right?
Luge, yes.
Oh, that's luge. Okay. I know you're making fun of your brother, but the head first part's pretty ballsy.
Oh, I'm making fun of him, but I also say in the special, he's a hero, it's an accomplishment, we're so proud of him. And then I undercut it immediately. But
and then there's a 4-man. Is there a 2-man?
There's 2-man luge, right? There's 2-man luge where one guy lies... the one guy lies on top of the other, and he steers him by subtly moving his ass on top of the other guy's pelvis.
There's a lot of homoeroticism, especially if you look at the outfits.
Yes.
But I used to have this joke, and I never did it on stage, but I always laugh about it, that on the 4-man bobsled team, and we'll see where your brother lands here, I was like, the front guy steers, the back guy's the brake guy, the 2 guys in the middle push off, jump in, and try to suck their own dicks. And then they pop their head up and they go, what happened?
We done?
How'd we do? And I'm like, I don't feel like those guys are necessary. I know the guy in the back's doing something, the guy in the front's doing something, and then there's 2 guys in the middle that are done 4 seconds after the start.
I think that genuinely, my brother is the pusher and the steerer. So
he's like, steering.
So
he's in the front.
Yeah, he's in the front.
I was worried that he was going to be one of the dick suckers in the middle.
No, but I can't remember if he's in the front or the back, because I've been able to see him because it's always in Winnipeg or Calgary. I've not seen him do it live yet.
Well, at least the brake man has a title.
Yeah, I think he's the pilot. I think he pilots the 4-man bobsled team, but he's a really good pusher. He's really good at pushing.
Yeah, they were
sounds
trying.
Wrong, but yeah.
Well, you know what they're trying to do for a while with the bobsled team? You may be too young to know this, except for you're deep into the sport, so maybe you would. They tried to get like Herschel Walker and guys like that in there. It's like, I don't want skinny 180-pound white dudes. I want dudes with huge quads.
It's all about the push-off.
Guys who can squat 600 pounds.
Herschel went to the Olympics. Didn't he win in '92 or something like that?
Yeah.
I think he went to, I can't remember which one. But yeah, I think Herschel Walker went to, they had to tell him which way was down, but he did a pretty good job.
Ironic, the only guy named Herschel was a black man that you thought that could have claimed a victory for the Jews on that one, but that Herschel, not Jewish.
We'll have to content ourselves with my brother, AJ.
Yeah. Is it AJ?
AJ, yeah, it's my brother.
Well, you can give his full name, and you can give your full name, too, which I think will be
David
fun.
Yosef Shimon Ben Elazar Ruvain Alexander Halevi Edelman. Yes, that's my full. Wow, the guys in the booth are clapping from remembering my own name. That's
one
really
more
sick.
time, slowly. Here we go.
David Yosef Shimon Ben Elazar Ruvain Alexander Halevi Edelman. That's my full Hebrew name. Yeah, that's what my... when I was a kid, people called me David Yosef, which was... but yeah, now I go pretty much by Alex almost exclusively. It's just my high school friends and the occasional grandparent who calls me Alex.
And
David Yosef.
AJ, his name is...
Adam. Oh my God, I'm a bad brother.
I don't think so. I mean, these are pretty long names.
Adam Yitzchak, I think it's... I'm David Yosef, so he's not Adam Yosef, but it's... Oh, his middle name is Jeremy. So, well, this is the only part of the interview where I'm like, can we edit this part out? It's going to be bad for me. No, keep it in. But it's I know the first part's Adam, and his in English it's Adam. Adam Jeremy. So yeah.
That's the AJ, yeah.
Yeah, I'd make up his middle name as Yitzchak because I want more phlegm in it. But in the special, in the special, yeah. But it's but his real name I can't remember.
How much acting is going on with you?
Acting, yeah, I'm doing a little bit here and there. I'm being asked to do some stuff, which is nice. I mostly get asked to play rabbis. I mostly say no, but it's. But yeah, I've did a little tiny bit in that Seinfeld movie that's coming out, Unfrosted, the Pop-Tart movie. Mm-hmm. I play the Apple Jacks mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Really fun.
And isn't Hugh Grant playing like Tony the Tiger?
He is. I have a couple of scenes with him, which was absolutely fantastic. He was hysterical, and he was hysterical off stage, on the set, off the set. He was on camera, off camera. He was like one of the funniest people I've ever been around. He was very relaxed and funny and candid and said like a million things that like we were all like, I can't believe Hugh Grant is like is hilarious. Like he's so,
maybe he's the British Alec Baldwin, like started off real good looking and serious. And then we went, oh my God, this guy's a comedic genius on top of being really good looking. But they're both so good looking that someone went, you're playing the romantic lead and the whatever. And so we didn't get to see the comedy chops for a while.
He's the best part of that Wonka movie that they just did.
Yeah.
He plays the Oompa Loompa. He's hilarious. He's really, really funny and really, really the best. That was, I think, probably the funnest part of being on that movie set was Hugh Grant.
So a lesson to all the young comedians. Like I was watching Seinfeld on, I think it was Jimmy Fallon. And here's Seinfeld, and he's, 65 years old or whatever. Been there, done that. Doesn't need money, doesn't need fame, doesn't need recognition, like doesn't need anything, and shows up to do a late night show. Whose ratings are decent, but there's not 30 million people watching. There's 1.2 million people watching or something. Shows up loaded for bear, like right into the bits, bit, prep. I mean, he's sitting there at, age 60 something, done every show 50 times, prints money, doesn't need to prove anything to anybody, but totally 100% prepared.
I don't think people appreciate.
They don't understand that part of who those guys are.
But is it weird to say that Jerry Seinfeld is underrated? Like Jerry Seinfeld is underrated as a craftsperson. He's underrated. I want to go see him at the Beacon a couple of weeks ago, and he is thorough. Like his material is really, 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 really worked. It is really thought through.
Right.
It's not laissez-faire. Like you said, loaded for bear. That is Jerry Seinfeld. He shows up. I saw him 3 nights ago, or actually no, now maybe Sunday. I saw him at the Mark Twain. Or actually, I saw him last week at the Mark Twain Awards. He was presenting Kevin Hart with an award, or he's one of the many people who'd given out the Mark Twain Prize, and he stole the show. He came out or opened everything word perfect, and clearly he had just given them and it got into prompter. It was all Seinfeld, and it was like a
Wait,
thing
you said gone into prompter. I'm sorry.
Like no one had written anything for him. Like Seinfeld showed up, gave it to him, and said, "Put this on the prompter," and then just did the bit. It was perfect. It was a perfect thing for what he was doing. Like Seinfeld is very good at and he was a pretty great director on this movie. Like he just is prepared, and he takes his job really seriously, and he's an incredible role model. And I don't know that there's anyone else like him. I don't know if there's anyone else who is as prepared and well thought out as Jerry Seinfeld. It's kind of incredible.
Well, I always stress this because I think people think when you're talking about creative endeavors, there's some pixie dust, or that guy's just funny, or he just kind of shows up and knocks it out of the ballpark, and it's not that way. Now, some people have an advantage. Some people are funnier than others, just like some people are a little more athletic than others and might do a little better. But the great ones, they just have one mode, and that's full prep mode. There's no mail it in mode. He's on a late night show. Again, not a Super Bowl size audience there, not mailing it in. Like a lot of people, they go like, hey, we booked you on this. You got to do that. You got to plug. Just worry about plugging the product. Just hit the movie over and over again. He's like, no, I'm going to sit here and be real funny for about 6 minutes, and then I'm going to plug it, because there's so many times when the person is like plugging something and you're going, but you're not funny plugging something that's supposed to be funny. Why am I supposed to think, I don't want to... Like, I'm talking to a chef and he's picking his nose the whole time and he's telling me about his food, and I'm like, I don't know if I want you making my food.
That's me right now.
That's you right now.
I don't know. My special is out April 6th on HBO. No, but it's but yeah, he's the best there is.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just because it's creative and just because you can't see it, the work is equal in what he does versus a lawyer preparing for a trial. Mm-hmm. Nowhere to go, oh, that guy's just a great lawyer. He just wings it up there. Now, the great ones do all the research and show up. And that's what he does.
1,000%.
Yeah. And he's probably sort of like Jimmy Kimmel, which is like more equal part comedian and equal part nerd student.
I don't know. I mean, you worked with Jimmy for a long time, so I'll defer. But I really. But Kimmel's another one that I've gone to sit in the audience of that show as a professional comedian still and watch Kimmel do his. I like the people that are prepared. It's like I've never been. There's this guy John Baldessari who is a conceptual artist, and he said that every young artists needed to know 3 things, which is talent is cheap, you have to be possessed, which you can't will, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. And like, I think that's really true. Like, being possessed is a big part of it. Like, wanting to see it, wanting to do it, wanting to be prepared, wanting to go up loaded for bear. That's a big part of, of making it all work. So, yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, you hang out, we'll do some news, and we'll do that right after this. Morgan & Morgan, it's 2024. Let's talk about something important. If you get hurt this year and you're injured, well, your injury could be worth millions of dollars. And if you're ever injured, you should check out my friends at Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, over 100 offices nationwide and more than 1,000 lawyers. More than $20 billion with a B, $20 billion recovered for over 500,000 clients over the years. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you the full and fair compensation you deserve. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. Racing my vintage cars, well, that can be a little bit hard. Oh, yeah. But submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is easy. Am I right, Dawson?
If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Adam or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/Adam or pound law, pound 529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
Last month, the Dalai Lama gave an interview. And I'm not sure if any of you guys saw, you're nodding. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw this. It was amazing. It's a British woman, and she's got notes on a clipboard, and she's asking really softball questions to the Dalai Lama. She's like, Mr. Lama, what's your favorite kind of forgiveness, Mr. Lama? And then she asks a question that's supposed to be like a real feel-good question. She goes, Mr. Lama, do you ever think there's going to be a female Dalai Lama? And he went, yes. And I can see me like, and then he continues, and he goes, but only if she's attractive. But she checks her notes, and she's really checking, but eventually she's like, nope, didn't have the Dalai Lama being sexist in here anywhere. And she was like, would you like to elaborate? And he's like, yes, well, today, people only listen to attractive people. So the next Dalai Lama will have to be attractive. And whether or not the Dalai Lama is right, I'm not going to be the one to make that call. But whether or not the Dalai Lama is right, I have one thought that I have been thinking since I saw the interview. Does the Dalai Lama think he's hot?
Alex Edelman is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Just for Us, name of the special. It'll come out this Saturday, April 6th on HBO, and it's really, I'll use the word impressive. Funny. Well shot, by the way. Looks beautiful.
Alex Timbers, man, great director.
But impressive. And you know that I feel like the Dalai Lama, the thing that bumps me on him is his frames. I think he needs contacts. When I see a guy wearing glasses, I don't think like touched by God. You know, I think like stigmatism or something.
Do you think the Dalai Lama with LASIK would be a more impressive Dalai Lama?
LASIK with Dalai Lama. He always has kind of weird metal frames, and he's bald, so it really attracts my attention. Soft contacts is all I'm saying, just for appearances. Like when you go back to the castle or teepee or lean-to or kibbutz or wherever he lives, you can put the glasses on like a lot of people do. But when you go out and do a presser, I would do the contacts if I was the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And he would improve his look. That's all I'm saying.
We don't want to see
I think so, too.
flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want impressive. You want impressive when it comes to when you're the spiritual liaison for 1 billion people. That's probably...
Yeah, you want whatever happened to me with my eyes had to get in the readers when I was in my 40s. That shouldn't happen to the Dalai Lama.
I love the Dalai Lama. I think he's so... I've seen him bomb. I've seen him lose audiences. Like, he just says what he says and just goes... I mean, like, and... He just does it. He's just like a.
He's like Dana White.
Is that, oh really?
Both guys, they both will say anything.
Yeah, you know, I think they get
both
compared
have
a lot.
money.
Yeah, they both compare. They get compared.
I know
a
it's
lot,
kind of
Dalai
fucked
Lama
out,
and
but
Dana White.
I should bring it up. Yeah, they're really the same.
They
guy.
both can really drop an elbow if they're called on. You know, they don't do it. They don't do it much as part of their job, but occasionally, if they have to separate 200-300-pound guys going
They'll
at
drop
each other,
that elbow. Yeah, all right. So, contacts, get rid of the frames.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say.
Well, speaking of Dana White, so not only does he get confused with the Dalai Lama, but he also gets confused for Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
So he went on Sage Steele's new podcast. Mm-hmm. And she sits down and just totally thinks he's Joe Rogan, and Dana realizes it mid-interview.
Way.
Here it is.
What's Joe Rogan's dream?
What's Joe Rogan's dream?
Joe
Oh
Rogan, Dana
no!
White. What's Dana White's dream?
Oh,
Did you just think I was
totally
Joe
did.
Rogan?
I totally did.
You just called me fucking Joe Rogan. You thought I was fucking Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I thought you were Joe
I was
Rogan.
bald
No.
before Joe was ever
I know,
bald. Okay?
I know.
Just
I
did a
think that was the
2-hour
same guy.
fucking podcast. I flew here from Vegas, and she thought she was
Jesus.
interviewing Joe Rogan.
Jesus.
wait! This is at the end of the podcast.
He flew from Vegas too. Yeah, I don't know.
No,
It's-
he said I just did
yeah.
a 2-hour
well, there's
podcast.
and there's
Didn't
another
he say
clip.
he was never doing podcasts again?
He
like,
did.
a
Well,
couple weeks ago?
that was on Howie Mandel's
Okay.
thing. I don't know. Like, so that makes me suspicious. Like, is Dana White just trying to make every podcast go viral with a clip? But then,
Well, I have some insights,
Okay.
just from experience. Well, first things first, it is so refreshing to see a black person confuse white people for a change. You know,
It
rarely happens, but this is nice. So that's a change of pace.
yes,
I've done her podcast. I've done Howie's podcast.
Okay.
They're in the same building. They're in the same warehouse. You just go in and turn left to go to Howie's, and go in and turn right
Who is
to go to
Sage Steele?
Sage's.
Forgive me for not knowing.
She's
God.
she's a sports reporter, ESPN. Gotten to Dutch with ESPN because she was talking about not wanting to get vaccinated, so they promptly
wow.
fired her, and then she's broken off on her own. She's okay. She's stunningly beautiful in real life. Like, she looks good on TV, but when you see her in real life, she's 6 foot tall. Like, she's a knockout.
She's coming on the show in a couple weeks.
She copped to it.
I like that.
I know, it's a hot chick move.
She's like, I did.
Hot chicks go, sorry.
Sorry.
Eat a dick. I'm hot.
I'm shocked by the fact that the 2-hour interview was so surface level.
It couldn't have been. It couldn't have. He said it, but it couldn't have been at the end of 2 hours.
It had to be at the end.
It had to
I think
be.
it had to be. I mean, it must have just been a very superficial. What do you think
Well,
of this wrestler?
Oh,
Or what do you
she
think
may
of
have
this
asked
UFC?
me. She may have asked me my dream too.
Well, for
That's
those
her at the end.
yeah.
What do you think of Joe? That's someone who didn't read the notes.
It's easy to do because the second you see his face change, then you can go, oh no, you work with Joe Rogan. Like, are you hoping to keep working with Joe Rogan or something? There's some thread there. If you wanted to bail yourself out, she didn't.
She calls him Joe in another clip too.
Oh.
As they're trying to put. He doesn't say anything about it. Like this is when they're putting on the socks.
She's a sports reporter.
Yeah, and she says this one so casually, and he doesn't say anything.
Oh my God.
Yum. We're gonna leave that alone. Yum yum.
So they put on their socks.
Thanks, Joe.
Now, if people see this and don't watch the beginning of
So she just says, "Thanks, Joe."
Well, the problem with Joe is there's like Joe Cool.
It's just a generic.
Hey, Joe, you shot your mother down.
This is really
Joe Blow,
Joe Blow,
Joe Schmo. Yeah, you could get away with the first Joe.
Right now.
I'm just like, again, the thing that bothers me is journalistically, like is she asking him about his stand-up? Is she asking him about his podcast? Is she asking him about...
This seems unthinkable. She is, well, okay, there may be some explanations. She's a seasoned veteran.
She's good.
Who does sports. So the fact that she wouldn't know the difference between, the guy who runs the UFC and the guy who announces the UFC sounds unthinkable.
I'm shocked.
But I will say there's an X factor. The X factor, as I learned, is when you're pulling into the place, they'll go, "What's your drink?" And certain podcasts will do this, like The Tonight Show used to do this. They had a booze cart right outside the dressing room, and they go, "Yeah, if you want something, take something. Loosen you up, have a better time." So when I came in, they called Mike August. This is my favorite Mike August story. And they came in and they go, what's Adam like to drink? And he does what he always does. He goes, scotch and soda water. Except for I never order a scotch and soda. And I have been on the road with Mike August for 13 years, ordering a scotch on the rocks every single time. But if he orders for me, he gets scotch and soda water in a big, tall tumbler, and I go, first off, it just tastes like carbonated, weak scotch. Like, it's just like water. It's just all soda. And I always say to him, like, Mike, why do you do this? And he goes, that's your drink. And I go, it's not my drink. I've never ordered scotch and soda, but he did it to me in Baltimore, and he came back, and I went, Mike, I don't order scotch and soda water. I've never done it.
Right, you don't do a mixture with your whiskey. It would be scotch on the rocks or vodka, soda, lemon.
Right, so I sat down, and in my mug, because they don't want you to see people are drinking, they put the mug
scotch and soda
with scotch and soda water, and so I sat down and took a sip, and I was like, and she's like, "Hey Adam, thanks for doing the show." I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill Mike. I'm gonna fucking kill that guy. He's like, how you doing today? I'm doing good. Oh, god damn it, Mike, where did this come from? You invented this thing. I told you no. I've told you no 3 times. It's just not what I drink, and you've been with me when I've ordered 2,000 scotch on the rocks. Never. My rider has a bottle of rye in the back. It says nothing about soda water. It's just a bottle of rye. And then he watches me, after the second show or the theater or whatever, just pour myself a little glass of scotch and go walk out for the meet and greet. But he has a thing in his head, and it shall not be fixed. Yeah. So people are drinking. She's drinking. She's got a nice mug of white wine in there. So
I don't know that it accounts for it.
It doesn't account. No. Listen, officer, the reason I beat my wife is because August screwed up my drink. Right. No, it's not an excuse.
It's egregious, Philbin. I think it's
That's
too
right.
much.
Yes. The real question is, all right, so when you put the socks on, now, Dawson, you got to find mine. Podcast with her if you can, because you put the socks on.
Does she call you Jimmy Kimmel? She's like, oh, Jimmy, thanks.
Listen, I'd run with that shit if
Oh my gosh.
You put the socks on at the beginning. You you sit down and she hands you a basket of socks and you put your socks on.
Get comfy.
And I think at the end she asks you your dream. So if she called him Joe during the sock put on department and then Joe during the dream part at the end, then she went all the way
whole
through.
interview was
Oh my
asked me a lot of Rogan questions, but I'll answer them.
Oh my God. Oh, we got to find that out. But yeah, so now that building, Howie Mandel's warehouse that I told him to buy in Van Nuys, California, is cursed for Dana White.
He'll never go back.
He had the one blowout with Howie Mandel, and now this.
He'll never go back.
He'll never go back.
Wow.
All right, so Alex, you used to work with the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what were you doing with them?
I worked in PR.
All right, well, there's a big PR thing going on with them over this last week with Otani. Mm-hmm. So we didn't talk about this
I heard that
yet.
there was a scandal. What was it?
So his longtime interpreter, he, according to reports, he took about $4.5 million from Otani's account to pay off gambling debts. Otani found out and has since fired him, and he's dealing with all this.
That does seem like a fireable offense.
It does, but there are
will say.
multiple stories that came out. First, his interpreter said, "Look, I've been gambling not on MLB because that's against the rules, but Otani gave me the money, saying as long as I promise never to gamble again, he'll pay off my debts and we can move on." And then now his story has changed, saying Otani had no idea. I took the money without him knowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel like that. I will say this. I don't know that I would invest money with the interpreter. I think he's probably not the best with money.
Yeah.
I know. Here's a cultural
Don't float
thought.
him.
Like a certain part of Otani was like, listen, I know you said, it was me and you're just doing my money, but I need you to fall on your sword and change your story. And he started pulling a sword out.
Yeah, an actual sword.
No. Don't physically fall on your sword. Although that would work. No, just change your story.
I did a comedy show last night, and one of the guys up there said that all of this whole explanation from Shohei Ohtani is all coming from the interpreter, and his joke was,
Right.
how can you fucking trust him? He's the so says this guy.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a beef with this guy because they look pretty similar. But
What do you mean they don't look similar at all? One's Shohei Ohtani and the other is not.
They're
Which one's which? I can't tell.
tall. They have the same haircut.
They're not tall. Shohei Ohtani is so much taller than his interpreter.
I used the word
These are
similar. I didn't say doppelganger. They look similar. They have the same barber. They have the same skin tone. They have many of the same features. So I will say similar.
Yeah. This is information from
All
Sage
right,
Steele.
Find me another guy in the Dodger dugout that looks closer to Otani.
Probably. Do they have another?
No.
Do they have
All
another
right,
ball player
I'm
on the team?
sticking with similar.
All right.
Now, here's my problem. Marley Matlin. Her interpreter's a dude.
He's lovely.
I don't
Kenny.
like it.
His name's Kenny.
She shouldn't have a dude. She needs a woman.
Why? What? Where is this?
It's
coming
her
from?
voice. Sounds weird.
This is extremely. Seriously?
I would like it better if she had a female.
You think that everyone who has an interpreter needs to be doing an impression of what they?
It'd be nice. Be closer. I don't know if Dana White couldn't speak, but he had an interpreter and it was a woman, it would bump me.
I mean, I think that would be really nice. I think
It'd be funny, but eventually it would bump.
Here's the thing. Though.
I'd like the interpreters to stay with the same
She's
gender.
been working with that guy at least since The West Wing. And so that's been a long time. So she's comfortable,
No, she's fine. I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're really talking about here. I'm not worried about her.
She's a genius. She's so good.
She's good. It's him. I worry about.
You have problems.
That's all.
I think his name is Kenny. I think he's well known.
Kenny needs to transition, and then that'll solve this. It'll be win-win. That's all. I don't know the man, but I've met him. I've met him a few times.
You mean with Marley, I imagine.
Yes, separately, I'd have no contacts. I wouldn't know him at the airport. But yeah, with her, I've spoken to him. If he transitioned, then that would be better.
Good. You've offered the suggestion
for
live.
me.
You've offered
Yeah.
the suggestion in real life.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, again, no pressure. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
force him to do it, but I'm saying if he's thinking about it,
Good.
it'd be better for the audience. That's all. That's all. I just like all the genders to line up.
That's
Because I did Dancing with the Stars with her.
with Marley.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then he was interpreting, and they were getting into, our bodies are rubbing up against each other. It's a passionate dance and stuff like that, but it's a dude's voice. Feels weird.
It can still be passionate with a dude.
I know, but she's not gay. Or maybe she is. We got to figure this out now. All right, if she's lesbian, then it's fine.
I don't even know where we are anymore.
All right, here's the deal. I will tell Marley, look, if you're a lesbian, it's all fine.
What
it's
does
fine.
this have to do with anything?
It's
Adam?
fine. If you're not, then this guy's got to transition. That's all. It's two choices. Just think about it. That's all I'm
It
saying.
feels like a you problem, though.
It is. I don't like it. I don't like hearing a dude's voice with the beautiful female. That's all. It's an issue.
Okay.
All right. What if
It's never bothered me.
well, either you're evolved or devolved.
Okay.
Let's not forget. There's
Let's
a version of this that it doesn't bother. That's not on the happy side.
Sure.
That's all.
We'll pick whatever.
I'm bothered by it. That's all.
What else you got, Chris?
I'm bothered by the two guys in the center of the sled, which is not your brother.
No, I don't believe so.
So that's good. That's good. And the interpreter. Yeah.
Oh, don't mean to share your point, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto was also picked up by the Dodgers. He's a
That's-
Oh,
Yeah.
but that happened
That's right,
like 10 minutes
Yamamoto.
ago.
No, it happened right after. It didn't happen right after they got Otani. They also got Yamamoto.
The photo we saw predates them picking up that
that
Asian
photo could have
player.
been Yamamoto, for all you know.
Well, that's true.
All right, so Bethenny Frankel, she's been on this show before, Real
Yes.
Housewife of New York. So she just commented on a TikTok, because there's this TikTok trend again of women talking about them getting punched
yeah.
randomly as they're walking around New York. I mean, you remember the knockout game
Yeah.
a few years ago? You're in New York, right? Alex? Yeah. So, so yes, walking the streets of New York, but now it looks like it's being directed to women, according to people them posting themselves on TikTok, showing their bruises.
Do we
or their,
trust Bethenny Frankel?
What do the cops say?
I like her, and I know this is a trend, and I've seen a couple vids of good-looking blondes, holding a frozen bag of peas on their orbital socket, but Bethenny Frankel, I feel like, is jumping onto some train here.
I mean, it's
I'm not saying it's something. Here's my take. I'm not saying something didn't happen to her, but I don't know if she was just cold cock punched in the face.
well, yeah. So she says that she was randomly punched while she was taking video of a bakery when she was on the streets.
Are
of
we
New
sure
York.
it wasn't because she was Bethany Frankel?
yeah, maybe
I
someone,
like Bethany Frankel. I think we follow each other in one of the social medias. I enjoy whatever it is. I think, but yeah, are we sure it wasn't randomly? It wasn't that Real Housewives are her target?
or maybe someone wasn't satisfied with one of her skinny girl margarita products.
Does she do that? Is that her?
Oh yeah.
Chris, what are you thinking?
You follow her and you don't know about her whole skinny girl drink line?
I'm not really on social media as much. I send it to someone and they post. So, but
okay.
I try to, especially, I think it might be TikTok, which I'm really not on because it's
Yeah.
a time suck. I opened up TikTok and I started scrolling on it, and then I looked outside and it was 2 days later, and I was like, this is too dangerous. I can't use this. The Chinese government is a real problem. Like it really, they know exactly everything I want to see. By the way, most of my TikTok is just movie clips from movies that I haven't seen, but seem like from the clips I would enjoy.
It's
So,
crazy how they
What
can
are
get you
they?
to watch
What are they
random
pitching
movies.
you?
It's
What
like
movies they
Band
pitching?
of Brothers type movies where they're being dropped over Bastogne or something, and the thing's about to land. There's Nazis everywhere, and then it cuts, and I'm like, wait, what movie is this?
I think Band of Brothers and The Wire are the two features or series that people most tell me to watch that I have never watched.
I think you'd enjoy Band of Brothers. It's a little slow the first 2 episodes, and then after that, it becomes a lot
you
of
did
fun. There are a
watch
lot
it.
of great actors in it. Yeah, I saw it recently. It's really good.
Yeah, I saw clips from a movie from 1998 called The Big Hit.
Was it a good movie?
Well, the clips were awesome. Because Lou Diamond
hit.
Phillips, like Mark Wahlberg, but then terrible Rotten Tomatoes score. But I don't know. I was interested. So yeah, it's weird how they can just grab you like that. Well, anyway, Beth. So you might be right about
Bethenny
Bethenny.
Frankel. Is there a picture of her with a shiner or a mouse under her eye?
Well, first, this was initially reported because she left a comment on a video of somebody else claiming they got punched, and she said it's insane. This happened to me too. But then she deleted it.
Okay.
But they caught the screenshot before she deleted it. But I think there is a video of her talking about it from a few months ago too. So I don't.
All right. Did we get to the bottom of me and Sage Steele? Did we put socks on at the beginning?
That is memory hold. I'm looking for it.
Oh, they never
it's not even
released
on
it?
her- Well, no, it's just you search. I've been through 10 pages of Google searches. I cannot find Adam Carolla on Sage Steele's show.
Oh, well, maybe they
Even on her
Maybe
website.
it's not released.
maybe they
searched.
banked it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
Carolla,
just
yeah,
she just
I don't
started it. It's
know.
on
Oh, she
Bill
just
Maher's
started it?
network. Yeah.
Okay. So she just banked it. So when we do, we'll see if it's socks to nuts.
Can we see if Dana White is wearing the same clothes as the Howie Mandel episode and see if he just did a multiple thing, like
I'd be
banked
shocked.
a couple shows?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
He
getting-
could have walked right out of Howie
Don't
Mandel's
get suspicious.
place. All right. Is Geragos supposed to call into the show and get us caught up on all the P. Diddy stuff and everything?
That is the plan.
He's not picking up.
Oh.
He's in New York, so I don't.
You're being screened by Mark Geragos, and he'll take anybody's calls. Like literally anyone. He'll represent anyone.
Well-
the parrot from Beretta. He's like, which is
That's
the hack reference.
It's
for,
a cockatiel.
Is it a
Just in
cockatiel?
case you do it on stage.
Oh, never. Oh, yes, my Mark Geragos material.
I know. But in case
thrilled.
you break in case you break into any Beretta stuff.
Mark, what's Scott Peterson like in person?
Oh, he does them all. He does Michael Jackson.
No, he did it. Wow.
He does Scott Peterson. He
He's
does
a busy man.
He's with the Menendez brothers now.
What? They're still around?
They're incarcerated.
Yeah, that's what I imagined. I saw them on that John Stark. Is it a John Starks basketball card? They're in the background.
Yeah, they're in
of
the
some
background.
Mark Jackson. It's Mark Jackson.
Yeah, it's a basketball. They made it onto a basketball card.
Yeah, they are looking
Famously.
pretty sad and weird.
Yes.
In the thing. What else you got headline wise, Chris?
All right, well let's talk more sports. This case, golf. So there are reports of how Donald Trump cheats at golf.
Oh, really?
I don't think Donald Trump cheats at golf. I think Donald Trump genuinely 3-day tournament, holes in one every hole, every single round.
I don't think that'd make him the best golfer in the world.
Well, I mean, those are your words, not mine, Adam. I mean,
Gotta cheat.
clearly he's, if he's winning the club championship, it is absolutely, it's like some Mao stuff whenever he tweets about the sports accomplishments. It's like, yes, he swam the length of the Yangtze River doing a backstroke. It took him 20 minutes.
He always brags about golf because he's courting the Hispanic vote. That's my
He's such a, I wish he was, I wish he would stop. I wish he would stop.
Just stop,
I wish he
period.
would just stop. I wish he just look, it's embarrassing that he's running. It's embarrassing that he's the option. It just stop. Just enough. Like when I worked at the Red Sox, he was always around. He was like a guy no one wanted to talk to when he was around. Like,
What was he doing there?
He would give $1 million to the Jimmy Fund every year, which is truly admirable, which is amazing. It's a children's cancer thing. Give $1 million to Jimmy Fund, but in exchange, he would go, I want to throw out a ceremonial for his pitch. I want to do this. I want to. He said one year, I want to headline the radio show. And it was just like, what? There's a radio telethon they do. It's like, I want to be he would ask for all this weird stuff, and he got it because it's $1 million and it's a Jimmy Fund, and he was just always around. I remember having a million horrible, boring conversations with this boring guy, and I was like, oh god, because these are like a reality show joke.
What'd you guys talk about?
We talked about, he had a friend who I don't know what that friend would think of him now, but a guy named Jay Emmett who lived near him in Florida. And Jay was a lovely, lovely man who was worked in licensing or something and was beloved at the Red Sox. And so, and he knew Trump and would occasionally, bring him up. So we usually talk about Jay and Jay's family and Jay's health, but like, God, he was boring. And he would also complain about various people I had never heard of. And I'd be like, oh no, sounds bad. There was a guy at the Yankees he didn't like. He'd always complain about this one guy, Mike, at the Yankees. Like, it was just a brutally small man, and I feel kind of, I don't know. I feel just kind of bad for him.
So you go Kennedy or you go Biden?
Oh, I mean, listen, I'm going neither. I'm voting Jill Stein all the way, baby.
Wow.
No, I'm voting Biden. I did a thing in front of him, and I made a joke at his expense.
In front of Biden.
In front of Biden, and he liked the joke. It was a Broadway thing, and he was there. And I said, Biden's, I hear he loves Hamilton because he knew him.
Yeah, that's funny.
And Biden, I met him later on. He's like, that Hamilton joke's pretty good. And I was like, thanks, man. Like
he's leaning into the old guy stuff, which is probably about the only way to go.
Maybe, but also he's got like a sense of humor. Like he really is a. He really has a sense. I asked him who his favorite president was, and he thought about it and weighed a few merits and went, "Who's yours?" And I said, "Garfield." Didn't want the job,
right?
And he didn't campaign. And then I was like, "Must be nice not to campaign, not to have to tell a comedian you think he's funny."
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, right." Like he's all there.
We're having a little breakthrough here with the Dana White story. Chris's sleuthing has worked. It appears Dana White's wearing the same clothes in both interviews.
No way.
Now,
so the first frame is from him getting up as he's leaving Howie Mandel's studio. That was the clearest I can get a post.
So now, here's what I think. I told you they're in the same building. I told you I've done them both. I told you one's on the right, one's on the left. The studios are literally 40 feet apart. He went in, sat down for 2 hours with Sage Steele. She thought he was Joe Rogan. And at some point got up to go do Howie Mandel's, sat down. Howie Mandel's princess of a daughter asked one shitty question at the top, and he just went, fuck this. He was already saturated. He was seething over the other one.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
wait, I think we'll have him.
Here's him on a Howie Mandel show.
Not only an amazing businessman, you are an inspiration. You are a philosopher. The way you do business, the way you conduct
number
your
one
business
podcast and
your
bow hunter in North America.
I'm jealous. But Dana,
Love doing Fear Factor.
Thank you enough for being here.
Thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it. I am so fucking tired of doing podcasts. I'm literally
this
done
is
with it. I'm not doing
interesting.
any
Yeah,
podcasts.
it's the next one. So he flew out to gang tape. They said, come on out, do Sage Steele, and as long as you're doing Sage, walk across the hall and say hi to Howie.
This makes so much sense
And then he just got mistaken for somebody else for 2 hours, and then he sat down all fucking still with that all up in his head. And even though he got this great welcome, like entrepreneur, businessman, lover of humanity, he just went, fuck this, because he was still
really interesting.
I think we blew the lid off this shit.
Wow, I think that's exactly what happened. That's really fascinating. That's really fascinating.
Now, that's teamwork, Chris, because you caught the outfit, but I know the lay of the land of that place, and it's all under the same roof.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So now that...
So they said to Dana White, fly out. By the way, it's across the street from across the street from Van Nuys Airport. They said, fly your private jet to Van Nuys Airport. We'll just walk you across the street into the building, sit down with Sage Steele, and then walk across the hall and sit down with Howie Mandel. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's in the same outfit, and that's why he's pissed off.
Look at us.
And they banked the Sage Steele one, but they released the Howie Mandel one, which he probably did after the Sage Steele one, but they were banked.
Second, that's why he was pissed.
But both interviews just go viral. Dana White just has that kind of juice.
All right. We got March Madness to do.
Yeah,
Maybe
Mark just texted me that he'll get
Geragos is going to weigh in on P. Diddy. Alex Edelman, the stand-up special, just for us. So good. Such a great performance.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And so much great material, too. It's really, and it looks amazing. I don't know what theater it was shot
It was
at.
on Broadway at the Hudson, but it was Alex Timbers, our director. He was unbelievable. He was just like he did all Mulaney stuff. He did all of our.
It looks really good, and so he should get credit for that. But just a performance that in a world of people putting up all their crowd work, this is just the smoothest 90 minutes you're going to see.
Thanks,
so,
man. That's
super
really,
enjoyable.
Really nice. Thanks, dude.
It was great. So look forward to that. Alex Edelman, by the way, on Instagram website, alexedelmancomedy.com is where you go. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back with Mark Geragos, and he'll fill us in on all the P. Diddy stuff and beyond right after this. O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. They're in the business of keeping your car on the road. They offer friendly, helpful service and the parts, knowledge, and everything else you need to maintain and repair your vehicle. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in store or online. You never have to worry if you're in a jam. They got your part. The team at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery for free in or out of your car. It's nice not to have to yank that thing. If it needs to be replaced, they'll help you find the right battery for your vehicle. Need your windshield wipers replaced, brake light fixed, or quick service? They'll help you find the right parts or point you in the nearest local repair shop so you can have the pros do it. Whether you're a car aficionado or an auto novice, you'll find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts are knowledgeable, helpful, and all friendly. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto, do-it-yourself. And you can find out what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today, or you can give them a visit. O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
I just used an old spoon with dried food on it to eat yogurt that I had left overnight in my truck. Got to get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
All right, good news. Mark Geragos is on line one.
He's already up.
Mark's up. He's got insights.
But first, can we talk one thing, Adam?
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
I have two questions. Number one, Byron, that boy Byron, who's there, why does he sound so slow when he first calls me? I mean, like he was dropped on his head. Is that part of the requirement for a butt boy, or what? Because Byron, you did sound a little slow. Didn't you? Kind of like you were like blindfolded in search of a pinata.
From what I've learned about Byron through Dr. Drew, he may have had his own penis in his mouth when he was talking to you. Because Drew explained that he has a skill set that most men don't have. So that could have been it. It's pure speculation. Mark, you know from Reasonable Doubt, new episodes every week, obviously. Mark, I see all over the TV set. But we're going to get his take. P. Diddy is where we start.
One more question.
Yes.
One more question.
Yes.
You texted me. I was supposed to be with you in Florida. I missed it because Ricky is Ricky. But you texted me a picture of you and the president.
Yes.
And I may have speculated on the podcast that was not your sport coat. Yes or no?
I have recently purchased a new sport coat. I know it looks, or a sport coat. I know it looks bizarre to see me in a sport coat, but I was told I had to bring a sport coat if we were going to Mar-a-Lago. So it looked weird on me, but I do physically own it.
Okay. I lose then because I speculated you didn't have a coat. You were given that coat because you showed up. Because it looks, I don't know who bought it for you, but at least in the picture, it looks like a 46, and you probably are a 44, would be my guess.
A little big, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't go to Surge of Beverly Hills and have all my stuff tailored like you, Mark. I'm off the rack.
Excuse me, it's Rafi of Glendale.
Oh, that's right. Rafi of Glendale. Yeah, I know. After defending his son in that DUI case, he owes you a ham or two.
Okay, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Now, we did a show, I forget what show, but I preceded you, I think, on the show, and the promo for you was Adam Carolla is coming up after this with a different take on P. Diddy. And they cut me off and wouldn't let me watch it because I was in one of those vans that like is a hot box, the mobile van.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to see what your take on it was.
I just got out of one of those mobile vans yesterday they send to your house. First off, show up, knock on the door a half hour early, and tell them to turn the goddamn air conditioning on. Because you walk into this place, it just smells like ass, and it's hot because they don't turn the air on back there. They got all the lights running and everything, and then they want you to sit down and start sweating in front of the camera. So always tell them to crank it up, number one.
Crank it up. And then why do they always send me Boris? I always get Boris as the mobile van driver. And I always want to yell Russia, Russia, Russia because it's Boris. But it's kind of a weird thing. And it's a hot box and it does smell like ass. The whole experience is something else.
Yeah. So all that being said, I didn't have any hot takes on P. Diddy. I know you probably hate this as a lawyer, but where there's enough smoke, there's got to be some fire. There's just enough people saying something. But first things first, how hard is it to get a warrant? Like, how much do you have to present to the judge to get a warrant of this kind to raid his house in the first place?
Okay, so every one of these shows I've been on, it's been the uniform response of all these former federal prosecutors. Oh, my God, they took this to a federal magistrate. Federal magistrate signed it. That must mean there's a lot there. I have been saying, as you know, you've heard this a zillion times out of me, that we have devolved in America to the point where probable cause means basically, is my client breathing? And that's it. Because you have to understand what probable cause is. It's not a proceeding in an open court. You basically are taking in an affidavit to a judge. It's not cross-examined. It's prepared by usually an agent who, he's all popped up on whatever case it is because he's an agent. That's their mentality. They give the worst spin on every fact that you can imagine. And it does not require, the exception to the rule is when the warrant does not get signed. And so the search warrant, to my mind, is virtually meaningless. And then you combine it with this show of force as if it was the invasion of Fallujah into Star Island in Miami and then the house in Holmby Hills or wherever it is. And to my mind, there's two interpretations. One is, dang, there must be a lot there. The other interpretation to the cynic that is me is, oh, they must be hitting some cement walls. They've got a lot invested in this, and this is a great way to send a forearm shiver to prospective witnesses that you better play ball because we're serious.
You and I both hate the weaponization of law enforcement when they're pulling up in like armored Humvees, guys wearing flak jackets and long guns. They're pulling up into Holmby Hills. The guy's not even home. It seems so theatrical, and I don't feel like they're helping their case. Like I feel like they may have made a statement with these kinds of theatrics several years ago. Now I feel like they're throwing good money after bad. When I see these things, I have the same reaction you have, which is this weird overreach, militarization of the judicial system, and whatever taxpayer expense. Like you're pulling up in swift boats to Miami. You just walk up. But you heard me scream about Lori Loughlin too. Just knock on the fucking door. Send an email to her lawyer. Bring her downtown at noon on Monday, and we'll talk to her there. Someone's got to pay for all this.
By the way, what a coincidence. I mean, you've got Homeland Security. This is a warrant that was signed by a judge undercover, meaning in secret, ex parte, in camera, meaning nobody knew about it, right? The only person who would have known about the judge signing the warrant is the agent, who is the affiant, and the judge, and maybe the judge's clerk, right?
Right.
What a miraculous coincidence that there are helicopters and a media contingent at the exact moment when that warrant is executed. How in the world did that happen? What a coincidence that the media was there.
When they showed up at 6 a.m. to pick up Roger Stone, the CNN camera crew was first on the scene.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're good. It's also...
Yeah. I'll tell you, that media, they can sure sniff out a story, right? I mean, every other time when they're writing about the story and they get it 100% wrong, that's the exception of the rule. But when law enforcement shows up at Diddy's houses, they just coincidentally are at both houses on both coasts first thing in the morning with fully outfitted crews, TV crews, and cameras and everything else. I mean, it's an amazing coincidence, if you ask me.
Well, in the theatrics department, you have the show of force with the armored vehicles and the swift boats and everyone wearing flak jackets and full military. And then that's the theatrics part, and then it needs to be captured on film. That's the second part of the equation. So, hey, film crew, hey, guys dressed up as stormtroopers, go ahead, and here we go, and we're off and running. This is Hollywood.
And
so what do you think? Yeah.
How about is for walking out one of his kids with his hands on his head, and the guy, like I say, looks like he's invaded Fallujah, and they're walking him down the driveway, and the helicopter's got that visual. If that doesn't tell you what the ultimate object of this was, and by the way, I'm not a guy who screams about the border. As you know, Adam, the border is not my issue. But this was carried out by Homeland Security, right? Would you love to see this kind of show of force at the border as there are guys flooding over?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there's definitely, forget the fentanyl, there's terrorists going across that border, and there will be a terrorist attack here because of that. But yeah, you're in L.A., if you get your laptop stolen out of your car or your guitar stolen or your backpack stolen and you call the cops, they go, we don't have the resources to send a unit by.
That was a rough single day.
You're on your own. We don't have enough physical bodies to come investigate whatever it is you'd like us to look into, but you have 37 guys in full tactical gear who can go to P. Diddy's house in Holmby Hills? Ugh.
The whole thing is just, and by the way, as you said, can you imagine a world where he obviously he was lawyered up. He obviously knew this was happening. Anybody who's got a couple of neurons fired can see that what they're doing, the authorities are doing, is they're using the previously filed civil suits as kind of a roadmap for the investigation. So he's lawyered up. Why wouldn't you just reach out to the lawyer and say, oh, by the way, we'll be there in an hour. Secure the house, don't go anywhere.
Well, they always say because he's going to destroy evidence. But you're saying,
By the way, okay, what are you going to destroy? You're going to be smashing hard drives, or as if there's no cloud that exists. I mean, give me a break. You're going to do something that's going to flush it. But if you want to show a consciousness of guilt, there's no better way. In fact, I remember a case out of La Cañada when I was a kid, where the cops didn't have enough evidence that the mother of one of my classmates was growing weed in the backyard. So what they did was they had a neighbor call up and say, hey, the cops are coming to your house. They're going to raid you on the on growing marijuana. And the mother of my classmate goes running into the backyard, ripping up the marijuana plants to throw them over the fence. That's when they arrested her for the felony cultivation. And that's the best evidence you can get, is if he was trying to smash stuff, which, by the way, you've already got the evidence of that in the cloud, because they could have issued a secret search warrant on the cloud accounts.
But basically what you were saying is, when people go, oh, they wanted to do it unannounced so they could get this material possibly before he got a chance to destroy it. Let's just say there was physical material. Let's, say there was a skirt that was stained with semen, or photographs that were not done in the cloud, but physical photographs. Let's just say that stuff existed. What you're saying is this guy, meaning P. Diddy, and his people have been aware that this is where this is heading for several months, and that stuff would have been taken care of post haste if that stuff existed. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. All of these lawsuits came about, if you believe everything that you read, when the Adult Sexual Survivor Act in New York was about to expire, which, if memory serves, was around Thanksgiving week. If that is the case, he's lawyered up, and it's been reported, in fact, I know the lawyers involved, that back in November, you think that the lawyers said, hey, you might as well gather up all your evidence, keep it in your house, and just wait for the authorities come next March to come around and execute a search warrant? I mean, give me a break. December, January, February, March, it's been 4 months since all these lawsuits were filed, and he's lawyered up.
Even Cat Williams tried to warn him.
Yeah. Let's shift gears quickly. So, what's your prediction then on P. Diddy, Mark?
Well, it looks like look. If they're going to this extent, they're heavily invested in result or a outcome. So my prediction is that he's going to need to make some moves. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, has your phone rang yet?
You'll be the first to know.
Just enough time for Fani Willis and that whole debacle.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yes.
I mean, that to me, I can remember talking about this several months ago and saying, I remember when Ashley Merchant, who was the lawyer for Mike Roman, they described him as a political operative who was indicted down there, first filed this motion, and people were saying it's a sideshow, there's nothing there, she's got no proof of it. And I find it hard to believe that a highly regarded lawyer of her, would file this motion if she had no proof. And sure enough, it turns out not only she had the proof, she was texting with the Fani's lover or former lover's former law partner, and had the text in real time. And the judge, to his credit, had a hearing that, at best, he's the one who challenged her. What did he say? There was an odor of mendacity around what he had testified to, and basically gave her a choice, either him or you. And now she's kind of doubling down on it. And by the way, one of the other things that people didn't talk about much, the judge excoriated her for going into the church and basically accusing the defense of being racist, and they were picking on this guy because of his ethnicity or the color of his skin, when in fact that was not the case. They were picking on him because she had apparently had a sexual relationship with him, was taking trips with him, and Ashley Merchant ended up having literally the receipts to prove it, and the judge excoriated her for polluting the jury pool, which is as he should have. And frankly, I'm not so sure an appellate court doesn't say that Nathan Wade's not the only one who has to go. she has to go and says that they have to start from scratch because you can't have somebody who's you can't pick and choose who you're going to recuse and then say that there's no problem with the indictment in the first place. And mind you, this coming from somebody who is, may not agree politically with any of what the defense is trying to do, but I'm a great believer in due process, and this is a complete violation of due process.
What Trump case has the legs? Like the one out of Manhattan with he overvalued his own properties. That seems like an insane case. When the banks got paid back.
Yeah, that case to me is, I heard, what is his name from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, who was railing about that he would not invest in New York. I get what he's saying. I mean, it's a fair, the bankers got on the stand in that case and said, we made a lot of money on the deals. We weren't hurt. There's no harm, no foul, as Chick Hearn used to say. And you have to wonder, how in the world do you arrive at $450 million as a punishment in a case where the people who are the purported victims, namely the banks, are saying, no, we do business with them, we did business with them, and it was profitable.
Well, also, the notion of you running for DA on a platform of, if you elect me, I'll find something on Trump. I mean, it sounds so un-American. It's literally un-American. So you go, you vote for me, you put me in this position of power, and I will find something on this guy. I don't know what it is yet, but do not worry. Put me in place, and I'll find something on this guy. And then the thing you find on this guy is a zero burger, and now you're moving forward, and then every talking head on MSNBC and CNN has to speculate, oh, they lowered it from $475 to $175 million. There's two different judicial systems, one for us and one for Donald Trump. And it's like, oh, you're right. There are two. You just got it backwards.
I have always said, God save me from this idea that there are two different judicial systems. There are, exactly as you said. Once the spotlight is on, and once you're, kind of in the crosshairs, you get dispensed with a different kind of justice, and it's really quite outrageous. And this is coming from somebody, me, who has no love lost for the policies or the anything Trump. But what I do find repulsive is I find it repulsive when you come up with these crazy notions of kind of tortured prosecutions because you've got an agenda. And by the way, for any of the Republicans listening, I was equally as adamant and vociferous about this when Republicans were doing it to Bill Clinton. This is a creeping that is now no longer creeping. It's whoever's who does it to the other side. It's the weaponization of the criminal justice system. It's been going on, for time immemorial, but it's been next level since the 90s.
Mark, let me give you a plug. Reasonable Doubt, new episodes every week. We got a jet to Reno to do this car show. We don't need your jet. We got our own jet. We're leaving Saturday. I don't know if you want to jump in. There's an extra seat. You can be back the next day.
You're going Saturday?
Yeah.
Easter Eve? Eve.
Yes.
I'll talk to you off there.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.
All right. Let's see. Dr. Dravon James is going to join us. We need a break, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to do March Madness, but now we're kind of running up against it. So maybe I'll boot it back again.
Certainly.
All right. So we'll talk to Dr. Dravon James right after this. Dr. Dravon James is joining us via Skype. Her podcast, Everyday Peace, is available on Apple Podcasts and wherever you find finer podcasts. She's an author. She's a transformational specialist. Everyone's trying to do that. And most importantly, doesn't like victims. And certainly doesn't like people labeling themselves victims. I feel, well, not victims of car crashes. I just mean everyone labeling themselves victims these days and how destructive it is. So good to see you, Doctor.
It's good to be seen. How are you guys doing?
Good. Let's drill down on the victimhood thing for a second. Give us your general thoughts on that.
Okay, so from the start, nothing against people who classify themselves as victims. It's just an opportunity to learn and treat yourself better. But here's the skinny on that. If you're telling the story about something that happened to you, by definition, you've survived it. That makes you the victor, right? Change your state of mind and tell people what you survived, what they tried to do, but how you survived it, and tell your story as the hero, as the victorious one, as the one who triumphed. Just change your narrative. It will change your outlook, and it will also change the way people treat you and the way you believe what you believe about yourself.
Yeah, the part that I push back most is more of a societal thing, and it's a politician thing where they're taking groups and sort of explaining that they can't make it in this country because of whatever their sexual proclivities, color of their skin, religion, whatever
almost
that
like
is.
Accept your oppression.
Yes,
right?
like of course you can't thrive because you're in this group. Which I get what they're doing. They're trying to get votes from that group, except for they never help that group because they can't really help that group. It always has to sort of come from within. But it's also really kind of despicable. I find it sort of like there's some lack of fiduciary duty or something when politicians are constantly trying to explain to people that in 2024 in the United States, they can't get along because of their gender or whatever it is.
Right. So it's almost like, well, you can't do it. Let me do it for you. So I disempower you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that does seem a bit agenda driven. So it's up to the individual, though. Right. Because to empower oneself is just that, is to decide. It doesn't really matter what you think I can and cannot do. What matters is what I will not give up. I can't tell you what the outcome is going to be externally, but I can tell you internally that there is no quit in this game. And when we start to approach our everyday life like that, we see things start to change around us. When we change the way we see the world we see changes, and that world starts with us individually. Well,
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is and I agree with what you said. I just, I think people will play the victim card if you put it out there for them to play easily. Oftentimes, it's sort of like everyone sadly will take the handicap parking space if they have a doctor who'll issue them a note and they can put the placard on their dashboard, and then they'll park up front at Costco. Like, that's sadly our kind of default setting. So you give them a crack and they're going to take it. Tell them they can travel with their pet as long as it's a service animal, as long as they have an emotional condition that requires them traveling with their pet, and you're going to see a lot of people traveling with their pets. And I just don't like telling everybody, I get into trouble, but I don't like telling everybody you're a victim. I like saying, you're fine. We've all had our bumps and bruises. Bad has happened to everybody. Now, here we go.
Right. Well, definitely people do have extraordinary situations that they have survived through, right? So we don't want to deny that. You're dealing with something, or you've dealt with something, right? That old adage is you're either in the middle of a storm, coming out of a storm, or heading into the storm. So we've all had some triumphs and we've all had some hardships to overcome. But it really is your choice to say, I will either use this hardship, this situation, which is very real. We want to take anything from that. But I'll either use this to be my stumbling block or my stepping stone. And that's a personal choice. You have that choice. You've got to, either way, there are going to be consequences on either side of that. But I'm of the mindset, if you take the mindset that I'm going to use this as a stepping stone. Sure, it happened. Sure, it hurt. It was unfair. Yeah, all that stuff is real. Now, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah, agreed. I like the part where you say, look, if you're a victim, but you're telling the story, that means you're here. And I'm looking down.
They lost, you won.
I'm looking down at your resume here. This is weird because I brought up the TV show The Wire earlier in this podcast for no good reason. And I notice here that you have credits as an actress that include The Wire.
Yes, I played 2 roles on The Wire. I played Queenie, and I played her sister, Miss Sampson. So the only character on there who actually played 2 roles.
That is so bizarre. I just randomly brought it up as an example of a show that everyone says, you've got to watch this show. Like, this is the best series ever. And I still haven't watched it, but I haven't watched Band of Brothers either. But those are the 2. Everyone says, you got to watch it. You got to watch it.
What will it take then? It's coming up in so many different places in your life.
You know, it's strange. It's like, for me, I'll never buy a lottery ticket. And for some reason, I like the status of never purchasing a lottery ticket. Now,
don't be a nonconformist. Don't do that.
That's noble. Never buying a lottery. A lottery ticket's the worst message you could send to yourself or anybody. To me, it's a horrible, horrible government-sponsored Ponzi scheme, basically, where the schools never benefit and all you do is prey on the poor. And it's a horrible societal message to send. Your life's shit, but maybe you'll get lucky. So I'll never buy one of those. Conversely, I've never seen 10 minutes of The Wire. And I'm not proud of it like I am of the lottery ticket.
A little bit of shame in that one.
But there's something about it. You know what? I travel with a guy named Mike August, and The Wire's his favorite show. And if I would watch it, then we'd have stuff to talk about. And I don't want that to happen.
Well, there you go. You got to have your standards and your boundaries. You know, getting back to the lottery, I used to tell people you got to play to lose.
Yes. I hate it because I hate that the government has decided that they've picked a whole bunch of rules around poker and blackjack. Like, I was literally just doing some shows in Florida. I was doing them at an old dog track casino. And I was like talking to the guy, and he's like, well, we can do poker because there's no house, and this is an Indian land. But we can't do blackjack because they have all these rules, and then there's the lottery. And that is no rules. Poor people spend as much money as you want on something you're never going to win. And it specifically preys on, I don't like to play the black and brown card, but it specifically preys on black and brown and poor people who come in there who have no business playing this thing. And the government turns a complete and utter blind eye to it. They advertise it everywhere. They push it upon us. But then when it comes to blackjack, and blackjack is usually played by people who could afford to lose at blackjack. Now the government gets involved. Now we got rules.
You know, we're not doing March Madness.
Oh, sorry. What it is like, just say you want money, but instead it's always some morals lecture that has to do with money.
It's a hypocrisy.
Right. It's a hypocrisy. If you allow the lottery, then you should allow any form of gambling. Cockfighting should be completely decriminalized. If you allow the lottery's the dumbest, lowest, and preys upon the weakest in our society version of gambling. So you cannot give us any more lectures about any form of gambling if you accept the lottery. And you do, because you want money. All right, sorry.
So you're in The Wire.
The Wire. Anyway, The Wire? Yeah, what was that like?
Well, you know, I think we all have to take responsibility for our choices. And, you know, it's a little bit in there for everybody. We have to accept that if we're all different, we're not going to all arrive at the same conclusion, or else we're all not necessary, right? If we're all making the same conclusion, one of us is not necessary.
Well, my beef is you know, as a society, like several years ago, when you gave picks on camera for a football game, you couldn't work the spread in. They would frown upon that. You couldn't say anything about gambling. You couldn't say anything about the spread. It was the dumbest thing always, too, because, like, well, the New England Patriots and Tom Brady are 12-0, and they're going into Cleveland. Cleveland is 1-11. Bob, I take the Patriots. All right. We'll put you down for that. What else? And it's like, yeah, you take the Patriots, but you're giving away 17 points in real life, and that's a big damn factor. But anyway, now all the shows do it all.
They do all the
All
odds.
of a sudden, it's not dangerous anymore. It's all good. It's all sponsored by FanDuel now. So are these things ever really bad, or do we just figure out a way to make money on them?
Yeah, they figure out how to turn it into a business.
All right, and then they're good. Now
okay.
they're okay. Sorry, doctor. What?
No worries.
I know you're in Baltimore. How far are you from the Francis Scott Key Bridge?
Not very far at all. Not very far at all. Right in our backyard, pretty much. You know, a lot of my coworkers used to travel that bridge quite frequently. So I myself did, but not recently.
I have a couple of thoughts on that bridge. One is, I don't think when it gets rebuilt, it's going to get the Francis Scott Key name. That's gone.
Oh, why do you say that?
Because they're already laying the groundwork on he was racist or his parents had slaves or whatever. I'm telling you, when it gets renamed, it's not going to be that name. They'll pick a new name.
It'll be the Diddy Bridge.
I don't think Diddy's on
He's not
there.
gonna get a name.
I think it'll be Kamala Harris or said there's going to be something, or maybe Dr. James. I don't know, but I think he's gone.
Oh,
I don't think he's making it back.
That
There's lots of articles. Because that's what we do. We go, oh, this was a tragedy.
What about the Star Spangled Banner Bridge, where it kind of pays homage to?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice ring to it too.
We do it, but I don't know. We wait. There's a tragedy. We wait 3 days, and then we start going at ourselves, talking about racism and whatever. But lots of articles about how his family owned slaves or whatever. So I don't think it's going to get renamed. It's not going to. He's lost the name. Like a stadium, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Once the dude's name's gone, Jack Murphy Stadium is no longer. It's not coming back.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But here's the other thing.
Interesting theory.
Ooh, what if they sponsored it? You know, Crypto Bridge,
Crypto.com Bridge,
MetLife Bridge. You know, and I mean, let them pay for it. Does that make sense?
It's a thought. I think that'll be the first in history, right?
It is, but
great advertising.
In a world
how many cars are driving across that?
All we do is farm stuff out and put name sponsorship to everything. Why not?
You can adopt a highway.
They should name it after a shipping company.
Yeah,
it may be hard to map quest it. The Google Map it when the name's changing every couple months.
True.
But what I was really thinking about, I'm interested in your opinion on this, Doctor. They're going to have to clean up that bridge, right? It's in the water. They got metric tons of steel, all sitting in frigid, dark, icy water, right? And they're going to have to send divers down there, and they're going to have acetylene cutting torches and stuff, and they're going to start breaking that thing up into bite-sized pieces in order to dredge it out, and it's going to be dangerous. Like that is not a cakewalk. That moving that much steel from those kind of depths and that kind of current and everything else, right? So here's the metaphor. I think we lost our relationship with danger, and because we got screwed during COVID because everyone just went into full panic mode instead of assessing the risk. And what I'm saying is not taking that bridge out of the water's not on the table. That's not an option. It's got to come out. On the other hand, someone's saying it's all got to be out in 1 week. That's not on. What we do is we go, let's come up with a plan and let's do it as safely as we can, but it's also got to be as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And it's going to be dangerous, and we're going to try to minimize the danger, but it doesn't mean we're not doing it. Somebody's going to be going down with a acetylene torch and diver's gear into murky water, and it's got to be done. And if we did that with COVID, then we would have left the schools open and the churches open. We would have handled it a different way. But we just closed the beaches and closed the schoolyards, at least in California, because we just went full panic mode. We just went leave the bridge in the water mode. Nobody's going in the water.
Right.
That's not a way to approach society. Thoughts, Dr. James?
Very interesting concept. I would say they're not exactly apples and apples. And, bridges have fallen before more recently than we've had a pandemic. So many people in our generation have never dealt with a pandemic before. So I think it was a lot of first timers in that. And yes, I think I agree. A calculated approach to things, but widespread panic. When you talk about healthcare issues, we can see a bridge, no one can see a virus. And people have all kinds of sci-fi imagery going through their mind. So I can understand why the public just went hog wild. These legislations, they're just people too. They're not superhumans. They're hearing it for the first time. They're panicking. So I think it's a bit different. No one knows. Everybody's just speculating. What does it mean? Does it really jump 5 feet? All that kind of stuff. We heard some incredibly insane things, but everybody was trying to protect their loved ones. And once you get, that kind of fear, I think we did pretty good, honestly. I think it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, I think we did horribly. And I think they lied.
Well, they may have done that, but I work in healthcare and have for over 30 years. And I'll tell you that it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. In retro, hindsight is 2020. We look back and say, well, we could have did this. Maybe we overshot a little bit, but.
Well, how come we didn't know the difference? How come we didn't know there was 1,000 times fold in old people versus young people and how deadly the disease was? How come we didn't know that when we knew it early?
Yeah, I think we did know that early. I remember that coming out. And again, like I said, I work in healthcare, so maybe I'm reading things differently and hearing things differently. But we heard that very early on, that the most vulnerable population was going to be the elderly and, infant population, that, the high schoolers and the college age people, pretty strong immune system, probably would be a really, really bad cold, although we did lose some of them too, but they were generally compromised with other health issues. But we did hear that early on, but still people panicked. People just panicked. And, we had that knee-jerk response, as we too often do in so many things. When people started panicking, they just figured, I don't know what their mindset was, but I know what I saw.
I think
the panic started happening.
I think they panicked because they were fed things like closing schools was just there is a reason to panic if they're closing schools. That does sound scary.
But when teachers, and I'm not saying they were saying this, but when you get teachers and administrations who say, hey, I'm not coming, what are you going to do? Right? You're not firing all those people. And we had healthcare people who say, this is my year of retirement. I'm not, going to deal with this. I'm going to sit this one out. So I think, they were between a rock and a hard place. When you got administrations and teachers saying, hey, this is a bit too risky. I got small ones at home. We don't know what's happening here. It's either, and they weren't giving those ultimatums, but I think some of our leaders were thinking about that.
I get it. But if you worked at a Trader Joe's, you were told to get the fuck back to work. And millions of jobs were told to go back and go do your job. So I will file teachers under firemen and cops. You were just told, so what? You're essential, tough, go to work. That's, that's how I would have done it. But it also a little school choice.
And a lot of industries did do that. They was like, hey, you got to come no matter what. So yeah, it's half a dozen on one hand, 6 in the others. I think we could, in retrospect, we probably would have handled it a lot differently.
And
I'm with you on that. I just think they knew more than they let on.
And just as far as getting the bridge remains out, we're deploying the Navy to use barges that carry heavy lift cranes. So.
Oh yeah, they're going to do that, but
they know about danger.
They're going to have to break that thing up into a million small pieces to get those things out. By the way, that's the craziest engineering in math for me is one of those barges with the crane on it.
They look so top
that
heavy.
Is lifting the heaviest thing in the world filled with water out of the ocean. And it's like, why doesn't the whole thing just fall over?
You need a counterweight to just stay above water here.
I guess. Doctor, what are some things we could do? I'll get off my high horse. What are some good basic things we could do besides go back and watch The Wire to help our mental health?
Well, you know what? I'm so glad you asked about that. I coach clients, and one of the things we talk about all the time is how unhappy people are for whatever reason, right? We have a lot at our disposal, right? But people are really, really unhappy. And I think one of the major things that we can do is develop a gratitude practice. Start looking for how similar we are with other people instead of how different we are. Start looking for the things that we are grateful for and stop focusing on the things that really, set us afire and, make us uncomfortable. Start purposefully, deliberately saying, you know what? This is what I like, and start off with that. Start our day off with that. Really force ourselves to have a different mindset. It will have just amazing improvement on our health, our physical health even, right? A lot of what drives physical health is our emotional condition, our mental condition. So really changing the way we see the world. And I said earlier, if we change the way we see the world we see will change, but it all starts with us. This idea that someone else, somebody else, knows the way better to heal our emotional state of being better than us is probably a farce. We just we don't have a good example, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you mentioned about the media and selling us on how we're a victim, well, everything around us points to the fact that, hey, this is what's wrong with the car that you drive. This is what's wrong with the neighborhood you live in. This is what's wrong. We're constantly focused on what's wrong. Switch that a little bit. Challenge yourself 5 minutes a day to focus on what's right and really get excited about that.
Now, your gratitude's the number one attitude you should have in terms of happiness. There's kind of a built-in problem I realize that many of us have. I have it myself, which is when you're building a project, and I've built a lot of projects, you end up walking onto the job site and you point out everything that's wrong. And the stuff that's right, the stuff that looks good, the stuff that's tight and the gaps are good and everything's working and everything, you walk right past it because that's the way it's supposed to be in your mind. And then you go right up to the part where there's trouble. And you go, the fit on this counter backsplash is way off, and look what you got here. You got a 1/4-inch margin here and it goes to 7/8 over there and it's not done right. And then people go, why are you coming in here and being so negative? And then I go, well, it's my job to find out what's wrong and point it out. And maybe you need to stop and sort of take it in before that and appreciate what's right. But inherently, we're wired like we're just people on a big job site, and you just walk past all the good work and go right to the one thing that wasn't done right and start talking about it.
Yeah, that's so good. I mentioned I worked in healthcare, so we always say you want to be obsessed with failure. How could this fail? Because if I'm obsessed with failure, I find it before it finds the patient, right? So that's a good thing to do. But way back in the 80s, I remember hearing this and I never forgot it. Always start off with a sandwich approach. I'm going to tell you what's working, right? I'm going to tell you what's not working, and then I'm going to compliment you at the end. So it gives everybody a really good feeling, right? And it sounds sort of silly and corny, but it works. It's like, oh, this is what's working here. You walk on a site, this is what's working here. And this is what's not working. And the way I say that even matters, right? This is what I see that's not working. This is what I want to see. This is what I would like to see. And, this is how I'm going to help you get there, right? So having that approach. But I think you're right. We walk on, we have to be obsessed with failure in certain industries. Definitely, when you work on a construction site, when you work in healthcare, you want your healthcare team to be looking at everything. How could this possibly go wrong? And let's fix all of those things that are within our control. So when we get to you, and maybe the extraordinary happens, but all that stuff that was in our control, we took care of that. So that's a good thing to have. We just don't want to overlook, like you said, we don't want to walk in there and just start off with, oh, this is a failure. This is a failure. Hey, thank you for showing up today. That's a win.
I agree. Point out a couple of, tell your wife that's a beautiful dress and then tell her she looks fat in it. I think that's what you're saying.
Complain about having chicken again, right? It's you look nice, by the way, but this is chicken again, right? But yeah, do something like that, and maybe word it a little differently.
All right, I'll work on the wording. Let me give a plug to the doctor. Everyday Peace, that's the podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts and mindbodyspirit.fm. I got that right?
Yeah.
And Everyday Peace at the Instagram as well, Dr. Dravon James. Good to speak to you, Doctor.
You guys as well. You're wonderful. Thank you for the show and all the good stuff you're doing here.
Thank you, Doctor. Welcome back anytime. All right, let's see. Me, Thursday, over at Jimmy Kimmel's Club, and then doing some stand-up there. Then Bakersfield is coming up. That'll be April 13th. At the historic Fox Theater in Chicago, the Den Theater doing stand-up over there April 19th and 20th. Salt Lake City, got 4 shows there at Wise Guys. And just go to adamcarolla.com because there's tons of live shows. And until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Dr. James and Mark Geragos and Alex Edelman and Chris Maxipata saying mahalo.